Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
I'm screwed. I can feel it. Neo's eyes locked on the screen, his thumbs dancing furiously over the controller. His duck led the race, but his gut screamed doom. The dread was so heavy it twisted his face. He just knew he was about to mess up. Not today, he roared, forcing his duck forward. Too late. A second duck rocketed into view, launched a missile, and blasted his bird to pieces. Fuck. Neo almost hurled the controller, then remembered its price tag and slammed it on the couch instead. From the next room, laughter stabbed at his ears. Ha! Bow before your daddy. Neo's scowl deepened. Losing was bad enough, but losing to Francis? That bastard would brag for a week. And worse, Neo owed him tonight's party bill. Muttering curses, Neo turned to Klein, the third player who'd finished dead last. He clapped his buddy's back. Guess we're splitting the check. Klein's face was flushed, words slurred into gibberish. Neo frowned, but before he could say more, the door swung open. Francis strutted in, grinning ear to ear. Don't be sad, my sons. No child can beat his father. The fuck? Just because you won. Neo shot back, then glanced at Klein. Hey, let's go. But Klein staggered. His head hung low, arms twisted unnaturally, legs dragging like a broken puppet. Klein. Neo's tone sharpened. You good? Klein lifted his face. His eyes blazed blood red, and cracks split across his skin. A zombie. Grapha. Klein lunged, jaws snapping for Neo's throat. Neo jerked away, barely dodging. They tumbled, Klein pinning him down, blood-red saliva dripping inches from his skin. Get off him! Francis kicked Klein aside, hauling Neo to his feet. Klein, what the hell? Francis barked. But both of them knew, whoever that was, it wasn't Klein anymore. The guttural groans confirmed it. Not just from Klein, from outside. Screams. Pleas for help. The hostile yard alive with chaos. Zombie apocalypse? Neo muttered. Stop being a nerd. That's movie crap. Tell that to Klein. Klein staggered up again, shoulder dislocated, body barely functional, but still moving like nothing was wrong. We're leaving, Neo snapped. Quick decisions were his specialty, and right now, hesitation meant death. He dragged Francis out, slamming the door behind them. Klein's claws scraped at the wood, but the knob remained untouched. Neo's theory hardened. Zombies were real, and they were stupid. What do we do? Francis asked. Check outside. If this is really, Neo coughed hard, crimson spilling into his palm. Neo, your face. Skin sloughed from his cheeks like peeling fruit. Yet there was no pain. Klein's saliva, his words slurred. His knees buckled. Darkness swallowed him. When Neo opened his eyes again, everything was wrong. His body felt taller, thinner, alien. He stumbled to the bathroom and froze. The mirror reflected someone else. Sunken cheeks, crimson eyes, pale corpse-white skin. Who is this? Memories crashed into him. The bite, the blood, the apocalypse. He had died. Yet here he was, alive, in someone else's body. Did I transmigrate? The thought was insane. But so was waking up during a zombie outbreak. It took 2 days to accept it. This wasn't his world anymore. He was Neo Hargraves now, wealthy enough to live alone, estranged from family, and accepted into something called Demigod Academy. He unfolded the letter he'd found. An academy where demigods, those blessed with divine blood, awaken and master their powers. Superpowers, gods, magic, and Neo, apparently one of them. His lips curled. Demigod Academy, exactly like that novel, but which God's blood flowed in his veins. The letter promised an answer once he awakened. And then, ding, a voice echoed in his head. Synchronization complete. Awakening God blood awakened. Registering user, Neo Hargraves. Registered in Akashic record. Neo's eyes widened as glowing text flickered before him. He reached out instinctively, but his hand slipped through the floating letters. They weren't real, only projections. A game-like screen. His throat tightened. His lips trembled as he whispered. As status. The screen shifted. Neo Hargraves. Rank, mortal. Affinity, death, shadow, darkness, void. Bloodline, monarch of death. Unique skill, death. Quest, none. Holy shit. The interface, the exact design, was unmistakable. He'd seen it before. It was straight out of his favorite web novel, Son of Zeus, the Lightning Thief. Wait, don't tell me. I transmigrated into that novel. Neo rubbed his temples, tried to steady his breathing. Even after dying in a zombie apocalypse and waking up in another body, the fact that he was inside a web novel still seemed too absurd. Son of Zeus. The Lightning Thief was no small story. It was a hit back in his old world, centered on the protagonist, Arthur Kingsley, bastard son of Zeus. Arthur's tale was cliché but thrilling. Raised by a frail grandfather, he clawed his way up from nothing. He battled monsters, seduced divine beauties, and eventually surpassed even Zeus himself. But Neo Hargraves? Nothing. Not even a side character. A faceless extra, fodder in the background. The kind of character who dies before the plot even starts. Neo clenched his teeth. So that's why I couldn't use the internet these past 2 days. Here, the internet was no ordinary network. Only awakened demigods could connect to it, and it was known as the Akashic Record. Grabbing his phone, he downloaded a browser, linked it to the record, and scoured it for answers. An hour later, the truth hit him like a hammer. This wasn't a similar world. It was the world of Son of Zeus. Wow, fuck. He pinched the bridge of his nose. This was a death trap of a world. Rival gods, invading demigods, ancient monsters breaking free from divine seals. And that was just the early arcs. He forced himself to focus back on the status screen. His eyes locked on the line that made his stomach churn. Bloodline, monarch of death. Hades, out of the 3 great gods, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, only Hades had no children in the story. No heirs. No presents. Nothing. Then who the hell is Neo Hargraves? Why wasn't he in the novel? He had an academy letter. He should have appeared. He should have met Arthur. As the only child of Hades, he should have been a major character. Yet there was no mention of him anywhere. Neo's frown deepened. His eyes slid down to the unique skill section. Unique skill, death. Effect, you die. Neo's jaw dropped. What the fuck is this? It wasn't your enemies die. It wasn't instant kill. It was self-destruction. Use it once, and he dies. Neo's hands trembled. It finally made sense why no children of Hades ever appeared in the story. They never survived long enough. In this world, growth depended on mastering unique skills. Only by training them could a demigod advance. Only by perfecting them could one awaken new powers. For Neo, training meant death. His gaze slid to the final line. Quest, none. Quest. Ordinary status screens didn't have that section. This was new, unique, something even Arthur Kingsley didn't have. Was this given to me by whoever transmigrated me? Neo muttered. Or is it something else? The questions tangled in his head, but he shook them off. He couldn't afford to treat this like a novel. This was his life now. If he slipped up, he'd be dead in a day. His lips pressed thin. I can't rely on luck. I need to solve this problem myself. The obvious solution? Don't use the skill. Live like a normal student. But Neo's chest burned with refusal. What's the point of reincarnating in a fantasy world if I never use magic? He remembered every novel he'd devoured. Heroes casting fireballs, swordsmen slaying monsters in a single strike. He refused to live another average life. I'm not giving up. Not this time. His voice was low, resolute. The bloodline of Hades, it has to have potential. Even if this skill is garbage now, it might awaken something broken later. Late game, carry bloodline, yeah? It has to be. More than that. He didn't want mediocrity anymore. He'd been average all his life. Average brains. Average strength. Average everything. No more. I'll train this skill, but I'll find a way to resurrect myself. That was the only path forward. It was insane. Resurrection was nearly impossible. But Neo had an advantage. He'd read the novel. He knew the methods hidden in its plot. Decision made, Neo packed a backpack with food and cash, $10,000 he'd found stashed away. He stepped into the city. His destination, the market. The ingredients: Luna Flame, Star Shade, Emberthorn. To others, they were exotic herbs. To him, they were step one in a revival ritual. The market buzzed with noise as he entered a herb shop. A half-goat receptionist with massive arms looked up. "Welcome. What can I get you?" "Luna Flame, Star Shade, Emberthorn." The satyr nodded and disappeared. Neo leaned on the counter, recalling the truths of this world. Everyone had a bloodline. Everyone awakened unique skills. The first two were always bloodline skills. After that, personal skills, unique to each person, shaped by life and experience. Hades' bloodline would give him fixed skills. But personal skills? That was his only shot at rewriting his fate. The satyr returned. "Here, $5,000. Neo winced as if stabbed. My gaming setup could have been upgraded for that much. But he forced himself to pay. From there, he went to a liquor store, but a guard blocked his way. "No minors allowed. I'm a Demigod Academy student," Neo said flatly, flashing his ID. The guard froze, then saluted in awe. "Yes, sir. My apologies." Neo entered like he owned the place, though inside he was still crying over his wallet. Soon, a staff member escorted him into a VIP room. Moments later, a man with golden, star-pupiled eyes brought 2 bottles. "Barum liquor, as you requested, sir. And our specialty gargoyle liquor, a gift. No charge." Neo blinked. "Free?" "Yes, sir. But if you enjoy it, please recommend our shop to your fellow Academy students." Neo finally understood. To the world, students of Demigod Academy weren't just learners. They were celebrities, future rulers. He left the store with free liquor in hand, muttering, "Should have used my ID at the herb shop, too." Still, his preparations were complete. "I've got the herbs. I've got the liquor." His gaze sharpened. "Now I just need a living sacrifice and divine water. The first step of resurrection." The sacrifice had to be a demigod, with the blood of a powerful god. As he had the bloodline of a great god, a demigod with weak bloodline would not work. Finding a sacrifice isn't hard. The problem is divine water. It's much harder to get divine water than a living sacrifice. Divine water sources were a nationally guarded secret, and only the strongest demigods had access to them. Getting divine water was impossible for normal demigods unless they read the novel like Neo. He checked the map on the Akashic Record, internet. Damn it, why is Oklahoma Beach so far away? Neo took a bullet train to his destination. Navigating the city was easy with GPS, though he had to stop several times when he found demigods. A demigod's appearance was altered when they awakened more of their unique skills. Though this wasn't always the case, it happened frequently. A demigod with the bloodline of Zeus would have blonde hair and golden or amber eyes. One with Poseidon's bloodline would have blue hair. Bloodlines could also affect personality. A demigod with Ares' bloodline would be a berserker who enjoyed battles. However, a bloodline affecting one's personality rarely happens. It took Neo 8 hours to reach the city where the Oklahoma Beach was located. After getting off at the station, he visited the beach and bought scuba diving gear from a rental shop. Before diving, he took a short break. "I feel like shit." He was tired. His body was too weak. Just traveling was enough to make him feel like he ran a 100 kilometers marathon. He wished he could get someone else to bring him the divine water. But the place where he was going to get it was a secret that, if leaked, could start war between nations. Divine water was too precious. Everyone wanted to get as much of it as possible. "Okay, I'm ready." Neo took the boat to the location he remembered. He wore the oxygen mask and dove into the water. The sea was neither cold nor hot. He could see schools of fish. Some fishes were bright in colors, some had stripes, while some were large and moved alone. Since he was near the beach, he reached the seabed fairly quickly. He began his search for the sea cave. By the time he found the entrance to the sea cave, he felt he was about to die from exhaustion. Neo didn't enter the place immediately. In the novel, this place was owned by the country of mermaids. It was a barbaric country ruled by a tyrant. He had to make sure this divine pond was not already found by the mermaids before entering it, or he would be killed by them. After making sure the entrance was not marked, meaning it was not found by anyone yet. He entered the narrow space in between the coral reefs. It was tight. If he had been a bit less thin, he wouldn't have been able to enter it. Neo arrived inside a water cave. There was air inside. He removed the respirator and inhaled. The cave was dimly lit, thanks to the glowing fungi. It had a small pond in the center. Looks like the mermaids haven't found this place yet. He sighed, although he knew this when he saw the cave's entrance unguarded. Seeing the empty cave brought him relief nonetheless. Getting caught by those crazy mermaids was an easy way to get yourself fucked over. In the novel, this cave would have been found by the mermaid kingdom and become a part of their property. He did not know when it was supposed to happen. This place came into play when a villain, gravely injured by the protagonist, came across it by luck and killed the guard mermaids to use the divine water to heal and strengthen himself. The villain wreaked havoc on the mermaids' country and was later defeated by the protagonist. Due to the incident, the protagonist was able to grow closer to the princess of the country of mermaids. Now all of this divine water is mine. Neo did not feel guilty for stealing the divine water. No divine water equals no way for the villain to save himself equals the mermaid kingdom is not destroyed. He was solving the problem at its source by taking the divine water. He was a hero, in other words, moved by his own heroic spirit, who wanted to save a country even though it was a barbaric one. He poured the Braham liquor into the pond and threw the herbs into it as well. The herbs quickly melted, and a sweet aroma, containing the liquor's traces, wafted in the cave. He removed his clothes and stepped into the alcohol-flavored pond. The only thing left was a sacrifice. Well, the sacrifice was Neo. The plan was simple. Neo would sacrifice himself to revive himself. It was a loophole in the ritual. But Neo believed he, the kin of Hades, the god who ruled over the dead, should have at least this much leeway. The Grim Reapers would not nitpick. Probably. If it doesn't succeed, I'm dead. He took a deep breath to calm himself. Truth be told, he was not using himself as a sacrifice because he did not have a demigod to sacrifice. There was no shortage of bastards who deserved death. However, to increase the chances of resurrection ritual success, the sacrifice had to be as close as possible, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, to the soul targeted to be revived. Who was the person who was similar to him in appearance, had similar values, and lived a similar life? Neo himself was that person. Hence, sacrificing himself was the best choice. Damn, I'm pretty smart. He joked sarcastically. Although he understood the stupidity of his plan, it was a viable plan nonetheless. After submerging himself in the pond, Neo had completed all steps. Now, he had to kill himself, negotiate with the Grim Reaper, and return. Here goes nothing. He closed his eyes and activated his unique skill. Death. A freezing coldness washed over Neo. He felt his soul was being pulled out of his body. Despite being cold, his innards were burning. He seemed to be floating on water. The waves pulled him along. He opened his eyes and found himself on a beach, pulled over by the waves. The sky was pitch black with 3 gigantic red eyes looking down from high above. The sand was black, sticky, and rancid. The air was hard. Every time he took a breath, it felt like he was pushing solid stones through his lungs. This place was the underworld, the place where the souls came after death. There was no heaven or hell, just endless pain in this hellish place after one's lifetime came to an end. Neo looked at himself. For some reason, he had a body, and he was not just a soul. While he was wondering why he had a body, a grating voice screeched against his eardrums. "You are here, O child of Monarch." A figure cloaked in darkness rode towards him. Its body was hidden in the cloak's darkness. Only the 2 spheres of blue flames were visible, which Neo thought of as its eyes. "Come with us, O child of Monarch. We will help you cross the river." The figure raised its hand to bring Neo over when it suddenly stopped. "This smell, O child of Monarch, why do you carry the scent of sacrifice?" Its voice turned chaotic, like the screeching of a banshee, as soon as it noticed the scent of the liquors mixed with divine water on Neo's soul. "Who dares treat the child of Monarch in such a manner? Do tell me their names." Even if they arrive at the river 10,000 years later, we will remember you, O child of Monarch, and make them pay for what they did to you. The Grim Reaper sounded angry on Neo's behalf. It was a good sign, right? Hopefully, the Grim Reaper was biased in Neo's favor. No need to worry about that. Let's carry on with the ritual. If you wish so, O child of Monarch, we shall begin the ritual. But if you wish for revenge, just say a word. We shall make their deaths painful beyond imagination. The voice reverberated through Neo's spine. Then, in accordance with the promise made 500 years ago, you, who have been sacrificed and carry the aroma of the One, should be taken in exchange for another soul to be revived. However, the exchange must be fair. Both souls must be similar, and we do not take any responsibility for the body of the revived soul. The Grim Reaper continued. If the vessel is damaged, the revived soul would die as soon as it is revived. Do you still wish to carry on with the ritual? Yes. Neo nodded. His body was not damaged. He could be revived as long as he returned quickly. Tell me, who is the soul dost wish to revive? Mine. Suddenly, there was a short moment of silence. Pray tell again. The soul I want to revive is mine. I am a sacrifice to. Is it against the rules? No. We do not think so. Silence. What are you waiting for? Send me back. Please wait, O child of Monarch. The sheer absurdity of the situation gave the Grim Reaper a pause. This has not happened before. While your words are not against the rules of the promise made 500 years ago, they seem wrong. We shall confirm the next step of actions with the monarch. You are going to disturb the great god Hades over such a small matter. Neo quickly spoke up. The great god of Hades, probably, like other gods, saw other humans and his children as nothing more than his subjects. Neo knew he was misusing a loophole in the revival ritual. So, if the great god Hades knew what he was doing, he would refuse to revive him. Neo had to stop the Grim Reaper from going to the great god Hades. What is your job? To help the souls cross the river. Yes, but that's not all. You are the trusted servant of the great god Hades who was given an important job. If you're going to ask the great god Hades for help in every little matter, what is the point of you being here? You have to make the decisions yourself. This is what you must do. But the current situation is abnormal. It is not a decision we can make by our own choice. Then refer to the manual. The Grim Reaper was confused as to what was the point of Neo's words. However, it did not interject and instead listened to Neo. Someone like Neo, who carried the blood of death, was naturally above him, and, as a trusted servant of Hades, it was natural for the Grim Reaper to treat the kin of his master gracefully. The Grim Reaper's chest swelled with pride when it realized it was Hades' trusted servant. Why do you think there are manuals for everything? I do not know. Tisich. Neo clicked his tongue as if disappointed by the Grim Reaper's response, and his gaze sharpened, demanding attention from the Grim Reaper. Manuals are to teach the newbies what must be done when a certain situation arrives. But we were not given a manual about the promise made 500 years ago. There is a manual. What was the promise? To revive a soul when another soul, covered in the aroma of the One, is sacrificed in an equal exchange. There you go. You have your manual. Use it to see if there is a problem with my revival. Neo asked with a serious expression. Am I going to revive a soul? Yes. Am I covered in the aroma of the One? Yes. Is the exchange of souls fair? Yes. So, is there any problem with the ritual's conditions? No. We do not see any problem. Neo quickly hid the smile that was threatening to spill over and opened his mouth. See, I knew there was a reason why the great god Hades chose you as his aide. You are competent at your job. You quickly found the answer. These days, people like you are hard to find. The Grim Reaper bobbled its head up and down and gnawed. His voice grew soft. O child of Monarch, you have taught us much. We thank you for your generosity. Now, let us complete the ritual. A string of smoke came out the Grim Reaper's hand and enveloped Neo. Neo found it hard to breathe. The smoke entered his orifices, and suddenly he gagged. He was back in a water cave. Unique skill, EXP +1. Unique skill, death 1 out of 10. Looking at the screen before his eyes, A smile dawned on his face. He did it. Neo returned from the embrace of death. Now, I just need to do it a few more times. He needed to reach 10 out of 10 EXP in Death skill to unlock the next unique skill. Clenching his fist, he grinned. It was going to be a long, long day. Neo breathed audibly. His chest heaved up and down. Death was exhausting. His fingers twitched uncontrollably, and he had trouble moving his body. Damn it, it feels shitty to be revived. After taking a few deep breaths, he was ready to go again. He submerged himself in the pond and activated his skill. Death. The sensation of dying was no longer alien to him. He had the leisure to carefully feel it this time. Previously, he had been too nervous to pay attention to his senses. The gravity disappeared, and an instantaneous pull jerked his body. He felt cold, and his innards burned. Opening his eyes, he found himself in the underworld. O child of Monarch, why hast thou returned? The Grim Reaper, still at the same place they met last time, tilted his head. Neo patted the sticky grains of sand off his body and stood up. After the last success, he was more confident in his persuasion skills. I'm here due to the revival ritual. Can you send me back? We can. The Grim Reaper, unable to understand what was happening, nodded. He believed Neo, inexperienced in the revival ritual, might have mistakenly sacrificed himself again. We will send you back, but please do not return by mistake again. Death is not a child's toy. The living should not touch it too many times. The Grim Reaper decided to forgive Neo for the mistake. After all, he carried the bloodline of the great god Hades. He was royalty, and a Grim Reaper like him must serve the royalty with all his heart. Then, goodbye, O child of Monarch. We wish you a blessed life. The black clouds rushed out of the Grim Reaper and sent Neo's soul back to his body. Unique skill EXP +1. Unique skill, death 2 out of 10. He woke up with a groan. The water splashed inside the pond, making him slightly cold. BRR, I should finish it quickly, or I might catch a cold with this damned weak body. He dived into the pond and used the death skill for the third time. The familiar sensation passed through his body. Again, we hope we are wrong, but, oh child of Monarch, are you doing this on purpose? As soon as Neo woke up on the beach, he came face to face with the angered Grim Reaper. The flames in the Grim Reaper's eyes flared. You dare belittle death, O child of Monarch? Even if you are his child, you are not above death. A chill crawled up Neo's spine. The air turned heavy, and it was crushing Neo under its weight. Neo's legs started to shake. His teeth clattered. However, his eyes remained calm. There was not an ounce of fear in them. Rule 1 of persuasion skills set. Be confident. He stared at the Grim Reaper without backing down. The Grim Reaper calmed down after watching Neo's expression. What is it, O child of Monarch? Do you have something to say? I'm training, Neo answered calmly. Rule 2 of persuasion skills set. Smile. Training. The Grim Reaper tilted his head. Neo's calm attitude made him realize he should listen to Neo before he delivered any judgment. Didn't you say it yourself? I'm the child of the great god Hades, the god who rules over death. But, Neo pursed his lips. I don't know anything about death. How can the son of the great god Hades not know about his domain? It's insulting to him. That is, I'm trying to learn about death by experiencing it myself, even though it means having to kill myself for it. He spoke with a righteous expression. Rule 1 of the persuasion skill set. Be confident. Neo's words pierced the Grim Reaper's heart. The Grim Reaper's body trembled. Just when Neo thought he was going to attack, he got on one knee and bowed. We apologize for being unable to understand your intentions. O child of Monarch. W.E. You were looking far ahead, and yet we dared to shout at you. Please allow us to pay for this unforgivable sin by sacrificing our life. The Grim Reaper raised its arm. A cloud of darkness oozed out and transformed into a pitch-black scythe. The scythe was about to behead the Grim Reaper when Neo spoke. Stop it. He took a step and stood before the Grim Reaper, looking down at him with his crimson eyes. He spoke with a faint smile. You were doing your job. I'm happy you stood up for your principles, even if you had to face me, a child of your master. O child of, the Grim Reaper choked on his words. O great child of the Monarch, We thank thee for thy generosity." The Grim Reaper could not believe he had shouted at such a hard-working child of Monarch. It didn't go past Neos' notice that the way the Grim Reaper addressed him had changed. It meant he finally accepted Neo as the kin of Hades and a fellow being of death. "Stand up." Neo helped the Grim Reaper to his feet. "Fuck, it's cold." When he touched the Grim Reaper's cloak, a chilling cold permeated into his body through his fingers. He barely kept his face straight and managed to not make a fool of himself. "Now, can you send me back?" "We can, but is there a problem?" "No. However, O great child of the Monarch, while you have not broken any rules, you have repeatedly touched death with your soul. If you don't allow your soul to rest, you will lose your emotions and your soul will be corrupted. When that happens, I won't be able to send you back to the realm of living." Neo found it hard to believe the Grim Reaper's words. However, he knew the Grim Reaper had no reason to lie. Besides, Neo had not read the last volume of the novel where the gods were introduced, and his knowledge of this world was not omniscient. He had to be careful. Just now, he had come too close to his true death. The thought of spending an eternity in the underworld sent chills down his spine. Noticing Neo's expressionless face, the Grim Reaper knew he was beginning to change. He was too calm after hearing the devastating news. However, the Grim Reaper did not feel the change was bad. It was a great change in its eye. The son of the great god Hades should have such qualities. He should not fear death, and instead unearth the method to control it, just like what Neo had been trying to do. Maybe if it's him, he can accomplish what the other children of the Monarch failed to do. Too many children of Hades have been a failure. If Neo could prove himself worthy, the Grim Reaper thought it would not be bad to invest in him. Maybe if it's him, he can accomplish what the other children of the Monarch failed to do. Thinking so, the Grim Reaper made up his mind. He would help Neo. "O great child of Monarch, you can return to the underworld 3 times again. But after that, you must rest for 3 days at the minimum. We will send you back now. If you wish to continue the training, we will wait for you here." "I will do that then." The Grim Reaper returned his soul to the world of living. After coming back, Neo saw the increasing EXP. He decided to raise the EXP to the limit before he rested as per the Grim Reaper's instruction. Underworld. When Neo's soul left for the world of living, the 3 gigantic eyes hovering in the air blinked. The darkness of the sky stretched into a thin smile. They had seen all, from Neo's first appearance in the underworld to his trickery against the Grim Reaper, and his resolve that allowed him to keep training even if he had to kill himself over and over. Death was not simple. Many souls went insane after touching it once. The insanity and fear of death could corrupt all. Yet Neo was standing tall after touching it twice. He planned to meet death many more times in the future. He had potential to become his successor. The sky continued to smile, amused, as it waited for the future to unfold. Underwater cave. Achoo! Achoo! Neo shivered from a cold. Divine water was supposed to strengthen the body, and, while he could feel his body growing stronger, he was so weak he got a cold from staying inside divine water for a few minutes. "I need to do something about this body, achoo." Neo wiped his body with a towel and wore the clothes for a few minutes. He sat on the edge of the divine water pond. "BRR, it's cold." After a few minutes, he removed his clothes and re-entered the divine water pond. Dying repeatedly was taking a toll on his body and soul. But he could not stop training. This opportunity was a blessing. After all, it was rare to find a vial of divine water even after spending a fortune. Neo was using an entire pond for himself, and he could return after visiting the underworld. In the entire history, there were less than 5 mortals who achieved the same feat. He submerged himself into the pond and activated the skill. There was a sense of weightlessness. His body jerked, and he arrived in the underworld. "We shall send you back." Just as he opened his eyes, a cloud of black smoke covered him, and he woke up inside the divine water pond. Neo's body was shaking intensely. His teeth clattered, and his eyes became bloodshot. He just wanted to stop, honestly. However, he hardened his resolve and returned to the underworld. Arriving in the underworld, he noticed his complexion had turned pale white. Just standing straight took a lot out of him. The Grim Reaper silently watched his resolve and sent him back. Blurred. Waking inside the water cave, Neo puked blood. He fell to his knees. His vision was spinning, and he could not put strength into his limbs. Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep. He bit his tongue. Blood trickled down from the corner of his lips. He activated his skill again. You've performed splendidly, O great child of the monarch. Please take this as a gift from us. Neo felt cold bones touch his forehead. However, he did not have the energy to lift his head and check what was touching him. Unknown information appeared in his mind. We eagerly look forward to our next meeting. The black cloud covered his vision. Neo was back to the cave. He tilted his head and saw the pond's boundary. It was only an arm's length, but the distance seemed as big as a chasm to him. He felt incredibly weak. Is this overdose of divine water or soul corruption from the underworld? Neo knew his condition was the result of one of the two. His mind was screaming at him to let go and sleep. However, staying inside the divine water pond any longer was dangerous. If he absorbed more divine water, he would explode like an overcharged battery. He tried to swim and get out of the pond. His limbs were as heavy as rocks. While he dragged himself away from the divine water, he failed to notice the blood oozing out of his eyes and mouth. He was about to lose consciousness when he noticed the screen before his eyes. His eyes widened. Slowly, a subdued laugh escaped his lips. Neo could have trained without pushing himself to the limit. However, he did the exact opposite. In Unique Skill EXP +4. Unique Skill Death 10 out of 10. His hard work was recognized. Neo blacked out. He did not see the screen flashing before his eyes. Unique skill has been mastered. Evolution will begin. Unique skill Death has evolved into immortal. His injuries began to heal at a rapid pace. At the same time, he grew thinner. He lost the muscles and the little fat he had on him. After his body devoured the stored energy reserves, it greedily consumed the divine energy in the air. The divine water pond trembled. As if commanded by someone, the pond's water began to turn into mist. It filled the underwater cave with divine, energy-rich air. Neo's body used the absorbed energy to heal and strengthen him. He gained stronger muscles. His bones became as hard as steel, and his blood gained a slight hue of gold. Rank, Mortal awakened. Neo stopped consuming the divine energy, and the divine water pond returned to its original state. Blissfully unaware of what was happening, he embraced the sleep. Suddenly, voices emerged from the entrance of the water caves. Is this the right place? Yes, I saw the divine water pond here. I hope it's true, princess. If we can find our own divine water source, our country will finally have some leeway. Two women stepped into the cave. It's just there. Amelia stopped speaking when she laid her eyes on the boy who was sleeping, naked, next to the pond. Amelia looked at Clara with a dark expression. It looks like an intruder. Get ready to fight. Clara mouthed to her. They readied their weapons and approached Neo without making any noise. Clara took the lead. As Amelia's bodyguard, she was one of the strongest demigods in the mermaid country. Just as they were about to reach Neo, he groaned. He shifted his head and looked up. His eyes slowly opened. Reacting swiftly, Clara dashed forward and attempted to apprehend Neo. She was about to strike him when he laid his eyes on her. Suddenly, a terrifying presence descended in the water cave. Clara and Amelia were frozen stiff from fear. The hair on their napes stood, and they found themselves lowering their heads, unable to meet Neo's eyes. Who are you two? Neo asked as he groggily stood up. He woke up because he smelled the scent of approaching death and found two women in the cave. Both of them were far more beautiful than anyone he had seen in his previous world. The one near him had sea blue hair and held a spear. She wore black tights and a yellow shirt that accented her curves. The woman at the back had silver hair and red eyes. She seemed closer to Neo in age. Her blue shorts and gray tank top highlighted her milky white skin. She held a bow and had an arrow, made of water, knocked at the bowstring. Neo noticed her gaze directed at his lower half. His brows furrowed. Stop staring at it. Despite being disoriented and flustered, a calm and impassive voice left his mouth. Although his life was in danger and he had just exposed himself to them, compared to the pressure in the underworld, where even breathing was painful, the current situation was lukewarm for him. Sorry. Amelia's face flushed, and she lowered her gaze. After wearing his clothes, Neo's vigilance dropped. At the same moment, the terrifying presence disappeared. Clara exhaled in relief. She almost fell to her knees. Unlike Amelia, she was close to Neo and was affected by his presence severely. Who are you? Clara put strength in her legs and glared at Neo. She was ready to fight him to the bitter end. The presence Neo radiated was of death. It was so thick that Clara and Amelia, who did not have death affinity, could sense it. Even a lich or a necromancer would not have such a thick presence of death. Clara gulped heavily. Her body shivered when she recalled the only person who had a similar presence of death. The demigod, the one. That horrifying man had once nearly destroyed the world. It had taken all existing demigods to work together to defeat him. Why you? Have you gone to the underworld? Amelia's eyes widened with horror when she heard Clara. No one could return from the underworld. No one. It was a universally accepted fact. Even the strongest demigods, who were comparable to natural disasters, could not do it. This meant the boy in front of her was a demigod who had reached the apex and possibly surpassed it. His young appearance was a lie, and he was an old monster who had lived for centuries. When Neo did not respond, Clara's suspicion only increased. She was sure Neo was a powerful demigod. Damn it, why is he here? Does the divine water here belong to him? Her thoughts grew chaotic. We tried to attack him. He will definitely kill us. I need to send the princess back at least. Clara shifted her weight, and she got into the stance. Just as she was about to attack, Neo spoke. Amelia de Beaufort and Clara Winterfeld. To what do I owe the pleasure of meeting two high-ranking members of the mermaid country? Clara and Amelia froze when they heard their names from his mouth. His terrifying presence seemed to grow even larger. However, while he sounded calm, his thoughts were the exact opposite. Fuck, 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 fuck. Why do they have to come today? Neo knew about Amelia and Clara. They were pivotal characters in the novel. Amelia was a heroine candidate. She was as talented as the protagonist, and, unlike him, she had the backing of an entire country. He could predict what was going through their heads. I'm safe because they think I'm strong. But if they find out the truth, they will kill me to keep the location of the divine water pond a secret. Neo was just an awakened demigod. He would be defeated, even if Amelia fought him blindfolded, let alone Clara, who was a powerhouse in the mermaid kingdom. If Neo had to guess, Amelia was a mythic demigod, and Clara was an Empyrean demigod. The demigod ranks were awakened, mythic, Empyrean, paragon, exalted. Each rank had 5 sub-ranks, grade 5, lowest, to grade 1, highest. Neo was a grade 5 awakened, while the ones in front of him were mythic and Empyrean demigods. He was in deep waters right now. Why are you not answering? Despite his inner turmoil, Neo maintained a calm facade. Oh, are you surprised by what I did after waking up? I apologize for it. I was battling a foe until yesterday and mistook you two for him for a moment, he said, referring to the burst of his presence. Presence could be called aura. Its power was determined by one's rank and experience. While Neo was weak, he had come in contact with Underworld's death several times. Thus his presence of death he radiated, was far from normal. Clara and Amelia felt their throats go dry. If they were surprised when Neo recognized them, they were downright terrified at the moment. They could see the dry blood stuck on Neo's skin and the floor of the water cave. Who could be strong enough to hurt him? A powerful demigod. To this extent. However, they realized another thing. Neo was friendly. It did not seem he had intentions to hurt them. As proof, he could have killed them if he wanted, but they were still alive. This was a chance. If they could grab it, they might be able to survive it. I greet the Exalted One. Amelia curtsied. We did not know the divine water pond belonged to you. We shall leave as soon as possible. Clara understood the signal. She bowed and followed Amelia to leave the water cave. They walked with subdued but hurried steps. Wait, Neo suddenly spoke up. Why were you two here? Amelia and Clara felt their hearts stop when Neo called them just as they were about to leave. However, Neo did not have any other choice. They were stronger than him and could kill him. But meeting them here was a chance. For them and for him. Before they could give an excuse, Neo asked, "You wanted the divine water pond?" They tried to hide their thoughts from showing on their faces, but Neo could see it fairly easily. The corner of his lips rose. "I can give it to you, but I can give you the divine water pond, but I want something in return." Their expressions underwent quite a few changes when they heard him. Doubt, hope, distrust. Amelia opened her mouth. "Really? We can pay as much money as you want." Not money. The divine water pond had served its need. It could bring Neo fortune if he sold it. But important treasures could not be bought with money. Right now, Neo needed something he could use to defend himself with. "I want a tremor-ranked magic spell." "What?" That's the inheritance of our royal family. We can't give it to outsiders." Amelia felt torn. She wanted to get the divine water pond, but a tremor-ranked magic spell was too much. Magic spells were divided into 5 ranks: whisper, echo, resonance, reverberation, tremor. Whisper-ranked spells were the weakest, while tremor-ranked spells were the strongest. The mermaid country had only one tremor-ranked magic spell. It was given to Amelia's ancestor by the great ocean god, Poseidon. The spell was the reason why her ancestors could establish the mermaid country in the harsh seas of Alaspa, which was covered by the blood sea from 3 sides. Amelia was lost in thought when Clara put a hand on her shoulder. The bodyguard looked at her with a deep gaze. A sigh escaped Amelia's lips. She understood what Clara meant. They had no choice but to get the divine water pond. She saw Neo was not going to budge and spoke. "I can't make an important decision like that myself. We can appeal to the queen, my mother, and I think she will agree to your demand." Her words would have sounded like a lie to anyone who knew the queen. The queen of the mermaid country was a tyrant queen. She was not someone who negotiated and instead took everything from others. While it was true the tyrant queen urgently needed divine water in large amounts, she could force Neo to give it to them without any compensation. However, Amelia did not think such a scenario would come to pass. Neo was strong. Her mother wouldn't be able to use her weapon, the overwhelming strength of hers, to take the divine water pond from Neo. She would need to do a fair trade if she wanted the divine water. Neo thought about her offer. He found Amelia's words to be plausible, and although he was not strong, he was sure the tyrant queen would not take the divine water pond from him unethically. The reason was related to why she urgently needed the divine water. "I have no problem with it. When can I meet the queen?" "Right now. Let's go right now." A small smile appeared on her face. She looked especially beautiful at the moment. The 3 left the underwater cave after Neo wore the respirator. He couldn't breathe underwater without it. Amelia and Clara found it weird how an exalted demigod like him had to use oxygen tanks. But they did not point it out. What if saying something like that got them killed? Every exalted demigod was an eccentric. They came out of the underwater cave, and Neo noticed a gigantic eastern sea dragon swimming inside the sea. The sea dragon had blue scales and a long, serpentine body. It looked majestic. Its ferocious expression and powerful aura made all the fishes in the vicinity run away. Noticing Neo's lingering gaze at the sea dragon, Amelia explained, "That's our ride. Only the azure sea dragons can travel in the Alaspa Sea." She could talk underwater without a problem. Clara was the same. Both of them had bloodlines that allowed them to breathe underwater, and underwater seas were their home turf. The demigods of mermaid country had unique skills that gave them such advantages. This was why their country was called Mermaid Country. It was not the name of a race, and instead signified the common denominator in their abilities. The trio swam and positioned themselves above the azure dragon's back, and the water around the dragon in a certain radius suddenly disappeared. They landed on the dragon's back with their feet. Neo could see that the water was being blocked by an invisible dome, probably an ability of the azure dragon. He could breathe without a problem in the air pocket by the dragon. Phew! Finally, I feel like I'm on the ground, Neo thought. Despite being able to breathe now, he did not remove his diving gear, as doing so would prove he could not breathe underwater. Right now, Amelia did not think he could not breathe underwater, and instead thought he was just being eccentric. He had no intention of correcting their misunderstanding. They began the journey. The sea animals ran away whenever they sensed the azure dragon in the vicinity. Traveling underwater, Neo felt the journey was no different from an airplane ride with a good view. Neo could see Amelia's sneaking glances at him, as if she wanted to talk but was afraid to initiate the conversation, and Clara staring at him with furrowed brows. He did not converse with them and instead focused on himself. He had yet to see the changes brought by the evolution of his skill. Status, he thought. Neo Hargraves. Rank, Grade 5 Awakened. Divine Energy Purity, Grade 1 Awakened. Stats: Strength, 18. Speed, 21. Dexterity, 17. Constitution, 12. Luck, 0. Affinity, Death, Shadow, Darkness, Void. Magic Spell, Necrotic Touch. Bloodline, Monarch of Death. Unique Skill, Death Immortal. Quest, None. His status screen changed after he evolved into an awakened demigod. My divine energy purity is already grade 1 awakened. Divine energy purity was an extremely important stat. Divine energy could be simply thought of as the quality of fuel of spells. It determined the strength of spells along with spell mastery. However, unlike spell mastery, which needed to be trained for all spells individually, divine energy purity was the same for all of the spells. The ranks of divine energy were the same as the ranks of demigods, from awakened to exalted. Each rank had 5 sub-ranks, from grade 5, lowest, to grade 1, highest. Divine energy purity is good, but my physical stats are a bit. His stats were on the low end for an awakened, which was understandable since he evolved recently. Luck, however, was quite surprising. Luck was the amount of fate value. He had never seen anyone with luck below 1. Well, whatever, luck never really mattered in the novel, so I doubt it is important. The most important stat was the purity of divine energy, which was very high for Neo. He attributed it to him absorbing a large amount of divine water. Of course, at lower rank, the physical stats mattered more, but having read the novel, Neo knew that divine energy purity and the strength of spells was what was actually more important. You are weak? Cast a body strengthening spell. You're slow? Cast a haste spell. Your enemy is tough? Cast a meteorite. I already have a magic spell. Necrotic touch. It must be the thing that the Grim Reaper gave me when he touched my forehead. I wonder what rank it is. Necrotic touch. Rank, Tremor. Mastery, Apprentice. Effect, applies death mark to the target through touch. Max stack, 5. Neo had to blink twice to make sure he was not dreaming. Holy shit, I hit a jackpot. Neo would have kissed the Grim Reaper if he was with him right now. The kiss would have been on the forehead, of course. Demigods mainly fought with magic spells and used their unique skills as trump cards. To use magic spells, one had to burn their god blood. While the god blood could be naturally restored over time, consuming too much too quickly could kill the demigod due to anemia. Neo was surprised to see the rank of the spell. It seemed the Grim Reaper he met was a high-rank personnel. Thinking again, just not any Grim Reaper would have been sent to bring the soul of the bloodline of Hades. I shouldn't get too excited. While the spell has the potential to be quite powerful due to its rank, my mastery is only apprentice rank. There were 5 ranks of mastery of a spell. From lowest to highest, they were apprentice, adept, expert, savant, and supreme. Next, Neo checked his unique skills. Unique skill, Death. EXP, October 10th. Skill effect, you die. The death skill had been completely mastered. Thanks to it, Neo gained another skill. He checked the details of the new skill's details with anticipation. It had to be powerful considering how much trouble he had gone through to get it. He prayed it was strong. Unique skill, Immortal. EXP, 0 out of 100. Skill effect, you gain an extra life every 24 hours. Max stack, 3. The skill was easy to understand for Neo. He would gain a stack of extra life every 24 hours. Each could stack 3 extra lives. Each time he died, a stack would be consumed. What the hell is this? His face contorted. This had to be a fucking bullshit. The skill was incredibly useful, but there was no point in having so many lives. If an opponent could kill him once, he could kill him twice. Even 3 or 4 times. Damn it. Were all skills from the Monarch of Death bloodline so weak? Calm down. It isn't a powerful skill, however. It's remarkable as a support skill. Besides, time passes faster in the underworld. I can go there to train my magic spells. Neo sighed. It seemed he had to keep dying in the near future. Watching Neo sigh, Clara became more sure of her suspicion. Neo was weak. Other than the aura of death, he had nothing on him that made him look strong. The purity of divine energy leaking from his body was incomparably weak, and he had poor control over it. Was he bluffing about his strength? No. Did they misunderstand him in the first place? He never said he was a high-ranked demigod. They thought he was one by themselves. As for knowing them, they were practically celebrities, considering Amelia was the daughter of one of the strongest exalted demigods, and Clara was Amelia's personal bodyguard, who was always with her. If it was true, there was no need to bring him to the mermaid country. Clara looked at her spear. Her fingers twitched. She had only thought about grabbing it when she suddenly noticed Neo staring at her. He shifted his gaze to the spear and scoffed. Did he detect my bloodlust? His actions confused Clara. It was clear Neo had a very high affinity with the death element, to the point he could detect even the faintest bloodlust directed at him. But his poor divine energy control said he was an awakened demigod at best. What is it? Is he strong, or is he weak? Clara decided against taking any immediate action. She would watch him for now. If he was weak, then the queen could handle him. The azure dragon reached the Alaspa Sea. Neo sucked in a sharp breath inwardly when he saw hundreds of hurricanes, both small and giant, in every direction. The sky was covered with clouds, and the undersea was pitch black due to the absence of light. Without the sunlight, one would not know they had entered a hurricane's range unless it was too late. The azure dragon swiftly flew through the gaps of hurricanes. It seemed to know the range and force of the sea devils and managed to navigate like a professional bus driver. The hurricanes disappeared after they traveled for half a day. The clouds parted, the sunlight returned, and a shore appeared in the distance. We are here. Amelia smiled. She commanded the azure dragon to circle the shore and drop them in a secluded region. Neo was breathing heavily when they got off the azure dragon's back. He had dark circles underneath his eyes, and his muscles were sore. Riding the azure dragon for a day without rest wrecked his weak constitution. Damn it, why am I so weak after reaching awaken rank? I shouldn't be so weak considering my stats. You don't look good. Amelia noticed his condition. Unlike Clara, who stayed quiet, she did not hesitate to speak right now. I know. Neo didn't let his face show the exhaustion. He maintained a cold, prideful expression despite sweating and having dark circles. I was using the divine water pond to heal myself. Is this a side effect from your fight? Who is your foe? Are you gathering tremor-ranked magic spells to increase the chances of your victory for the next time? Her rapid-fire questions and sparkling gaze made Neo take a step back. Princess, we should go. Clara interrupted her before she overwhelmed Neo. He looked at her thankfully. They left the shore and came across a carriage hidden next to the giant beach rocks. It was left there for occasions like today. A carriage? They're using carriages when the rest of the world has cars. Am I in the boonies or what? He should not have expected much from a country that followed monarchy in this day and age. Amelia climbed the carriage first. After entering, she noticed Neo breathing heavily and unable to move his body, much due to soreness. She gave her hand to help him climb. Neo frowned, but he was indeed feeling weak. He was fighting sleep and exhaustion through sheer will. Just when Amelia thought he did not need her help, Neo grabbed her hand and stepped into the carriage. A smile blossomed on her face. Clara took the reins of the carriage and drove. While on the way, Neo decided to take a short nap. He needed to be in his best condition before meeting the Tyrant Queen. Wake up, we are here. A melodious voice woke him up. Neo felt refreshed despite feeling like he had been woken up as soon as he had slept. His body was brimming with power. Opening his eyes, he saw Clara at the door and Amelia in front of him. It's already been a few hours. We even delayed our meeting with the Queen to let you rest, Clara explained. Neo nodded. He exited the carriage and saw an extravagant palace. The Azure Spire Palace stood out as a breathtaking marvel. Its massive structure adorned in rich shades of blue glistened like sapphires under the sun. The rich history and the regal opulence meant to be showed through the palace were clear to Neo. They entered the palace. Are we meeting the Queen immediately? Neo asked. Yes. She is busy with the audience, but she has asked to meet you as soon as possible, Amelia answered. While the two conversed, Clara followed Amelia silently, like a faithful shadow. They reached the door of the audience chamber. The guard bowed to them and stepped into the hall to announce their arrival. The audience hall. The tyrant queen, Elizabeth, sat on the throne. Her silver hair cascaded like moonlight. Her crimson eyes stared down on the audience like a predator looking down on its prey. She exuded an aura of both allure and danger. On both sides of the audience hall, there were dozens of ministers and citizens. Today's audience had been abruptly halted by the Queen. They did not know what was happening. As they waited, a guard entered the hall. The Princess Amelia de Beaufort is arriving with an esteemed guest. Amelia and Clara stepped inside. Immediately, the eyes of ministers were drawn to the doors, waiting for the esteemed guest like hawks for prey. It was an open secret that Amelia was looking for a divine water source to save the Queen. However, most of them were against saving the Queen in secret. No one wanted the tyrant to live anymore. They had to know if the esteemed guest was truly capable of saving the Queen. If he was, then he was an enemy. If he was capable of truly saving the Queen, he was an enemy. Neo instinctively sensed the hostile gazes aimed in his direction. Due to his weak control, his presence erupted on its own even before he stepped past the doors, bearing its fangs on those who were looking towards him with hostility. His overwhelming presence swept past doors and drowned everyone. The audience froze, and the Queen watched with interest as the dark-haired youth entered. At a glance, he looked weak, not even able to control the divine energy leaking from his body. However, everyone could feel the heavy aura of death on him. The guards reacted. Who are you? Apprehend him. They swiftly encircled Neo and pointed their weapons at him. His aura made it clear he was an apex predator who would pounce on them as soon as he saw an opening. They mistook him for an intruder. Let him be, the Queen spoke. The ministers wanted to advise the Queen against letting such a dangerous person free. However, they swallowed their words when she gave them a glance, and they nodded. The Queen returned her gaze on Neo. Her eyes were glowing, and, hovering before Neo, she could see something no one could. Name, Neo Hargraves. Rank, Grade 5 Awakened. Bloodline, Monarch of Death. She chuckled inwardly, seeing his rank, and her interest in him rose, wondering how he could have such a powerful aura despite his rank. The audience hall, unable to use the same ability as the Queen, did not know his rank, and they remained silent, fearful of Neo. The chilling silence was broken by Neo, who had been staring at the Queen in a daze. You? He couldn't help but notice the thick aura of death covering the Queen. His strong death affinity allowed him to roughly guess the time of arrival of others' death. Death had touched her already. She was resisting its call through her overwhelming might. But you will die in 3 days. Neo's words brought a catastrophic change to the mood in the audience hall. Some were skeptical of his words. A few looked distraught. Most of them were happy. Amelia grabbed his wrist. What? How can you be so sure? We have the divine water pond. The divine water won't help. You can use it to concoct potions and elixirs, but it's already too late for her. She would die, just like how she died in the novel. The tyrant queen maintained a calm expression despite the news. Looking at her, no one could guess she was at death's door. Today's audience is adjourned, the queen said. Her words snapped the people out of their stupor. They realized they had been too agitated. How could he, a no-name demigod, guess the time of the tyrant queen's death? It was impossible for him. His divine energy purity was weak, and there was no way he could cast strong spells with that. However, there was one thing that did not make sense to anyone. The queen was not killing him after his discourteous words. Why was that? They suddenly had a terrible thought. Was this the queen's plan, to see who supported her death, and she planned to kill those who seemed happy with her coming death? It was entirely possible for the maniac tyrant to do something like that. While the ministers were dragging their feet out of the hall, the queen told Clara, "Bring him to my office." She stood up and left. Neo turned to Amelia and saw her staring at the floor with a blank gaze and clenched fists. "Please follow me," Clara spoke. She took Neo to another room. The doors were not as big as the audience hall, but they were equally majestic. "He is here, my queen," Clara said after knocking on the door. "Send him in." Entering inside, the first thing Neo noticed was the tyrant queen, Elizabeth. She was preparing tea with a smile. "I never thought I would meet a kin of the great death god in my life. A recently awakened demigod at that." She spoke while beckoning him to sit. "Why are you here?" "To sell the divine water pond." He sat on the sofa. He had not expected she would know his rank, but he was not agitated. If he did not have the confidence to face the queen, he would not have come here. Rule 1 of persuasion skills set, be confident. "Is this why Amelia brought you here?" "I have to refuse your offer. I don't need the divine water, since I'm going to die either way." As expected, she knew. However, the fact she called Neo to meet her meant he had something she needed. But, she added, "I could think about the deal if you, the death's inheritor, could save me. I can try, but I need to know what is happening to you." Neo knew why she was about to die, but he still needed to hear it from her mouth. It would be suspicious if he knew something no one other than the queen did. "I'm cursed." She revealed the answer easily. Neo thought he would have had to bargain more. He faked a thoughtful expression. In truth, there was no need to think. This was the reason why he came here. To collect the hidden piece that allowed the villain to destroy the mermaid country single-handedly. The Tremorank magic spell he asked for was just a smokescreen. Of course, the Tremorank spell was still important. While it was true that mermaid country was an isolated country, away from the continent where all powerhouses lived, a Tremorank was precious anywhere. "I can save you. Of course, you must also give me the Tremorank magic spell that the princess promised." The vulnerabilities hiding behind her calm expression showed for a split second, but she hid them quickly. She brought the 2 teacups and placed them on the table. As she sat across Neo, she poured tea into the cup. Elizabeth had asked him if he could cure her, as he was the blood of death. And ever did she imagine he could actually do it? She stopped her arms from trembling and spoke calmly. "If you have this much confidence, you must have something you want from me. Your most prized possession." He smiled. "Give it to me." He couldn't say outright that he wanted her weapon, the replica of Poseidon's trident. His words, however, were direct enough for her to understand him. "You want the Poseidon." She stopped speaking and turned to the doors. A playful smile appeared on her face. She spoke loudly as if she wanted the person hiding behind the doors to hear her. "My most prized possession. You want my kingdom? You'll have to marry my daughter for that to happen." "What?" Neo did not understand what she was talking about. Why did she suddenly change the subject from Poseidon's trident to marriage? "Oh dear, I don't mind it since you have a noble bloodline, but I don't want to force my daughter into a political marriage. Not when you are weaker than her. I don't want to marry your daughter." Neo, irritated, decided to answer back. "If your kingdom is your most prized possession, I'd rather marry the queen and become the king, instead of being the princess fiancée." The queen cupped her face with one hand. "My goodness, are you saying you want me?" What the fuck was this woman talking about? He gave a metaphorical answer. Why was she taking his words seriously? "Are you sure? If you are okay with an old woman like me." "No." The doors were pushed open. Amelia rushed inside, followed by Clara. The bodyguard looked apologetically at the queen for being unable to stop Amelia from eavesdropping. "Nobody is marrying anyone. Don't reject him so fiercely. He has quite a few good qualities. If you spend time with him, maybe you will come to like him." At her mother's words, Amelia's gaze unconsciously moved towards Neo's lower half. She looked away with a flushed face. The queen noticed her actions. "Oh my, What did you two do before coming here? We did nothing. Ayan stopped changing the subject. Amelia sat on the same sofa as her mother and glared at Neo. If a stare could kill, he would have been skinned and boiled 1,000 times by now. The tyrant queen, Elizabeth, picked up her teacup and sipped it. You've heard my daughter. I don't think I can give you my most prized possession. Neo frowned. Only Elizabeth knew about the replica of Poseidon's trident. It seemed she wanted to negotiate with Neo in front of her daughter with the code words. While Amelia thought of the most prized possession as a marriage with her mother and her, in truth, the queen and Neo would talk about the weapon. So, Elizabeth continued. How about another offer? I'll hear at least. I will let you live if you promise to save me. She placed the teacup on the table. Her expression said it was her final offer. As expected of a tyrant, Neo knew this was going to happen. Mom, why are you doing this? Amelia asked with a frustrated expression. She knew nothing was going to change her mother's thoughts. Similar situations happened countless times throughout her childhood. Although she hoped Neo's strength would deter her, after hearing everything through the door, she knew her expectations were not going to be fulfilled. Elizabeth looked at Neo to see how he would react. But he picked his teacup with a smile. It's a realistic offer. Sadly, I can't accept it. So you are ready to die? That's the problem. Neo took a sip. I'm immortal. Huh? Are you bluffing again? Amelia reacted. Her mother and Clara pondered over Neo's words seriously. The children of the 10 high gods and the 3 great gods inherited powerful bloodline, unique skills. Zeus' familia could control lightning, and Poseidon's lineage reigned supreme over the oceans. With that logic, Hades' descendant should be able to command death. There has never been a Hades child in history. We can't predict if his words are truth or lie, Clara thought as she stood behind Elizabeth's sofa. Neo's words had taken the tyrant queen by surprise. However, she recovered quickly. If that is the case, my offer won't work. She added, how about I torture you if you don't save me? I can start by pulling out your nails, dripping hot wax on your skin, and slowly use worse torture. Sounds painful. Neo maintained his calm. Rule 1 of persuasion skill set. Be confident. The tyrant queen frowned at his composure. But Neo wasn't done. He put his teacup down and said, but I think I can endure 3 days. After that, I'll be fairly compensated for my troubles. Neo did not say who would compensate him. However, all of them knew the answer. The people in the audience hall were happy to hear about the queen's death. Someone placed a curse on the queen. No one, except Amelia, was trying to save her. Almost everyone was somehow helping in the rebellion against the tyrant queen. Those people, when they find Neo endured 3 days of torture and refused to save the queen, even though he could, would treat him like a hero. They had to do that. After all, a rebellion was justified only until they had justice on their side. Not treating Neo as a hero after he endured torture for their cause would work against them. So, it was a checkmate for the tyrant queen. She had nothing to blackmail him with. You came prepared. The tyrant queen refilled his cup. I'll accept your offer. Crazy bastards. They're talking about murder and torture while snacking. Clara thought she was the only sane person in the room. Even Amelia had been desensitized to death after seeing her mother's actions for years. While Amelia bit her lips, unable to reject or accept her mother's deal with Neo, the tyrant queen added, however, I need proof of your capabilities. As you wish. Neo stood up and approached the potted plants on the window. The flowers had yellow star-shaped petals. They were beautiful. He used the necrotic touch spell. Wisps of black smoke came out of the tip of his fingers. He could feel the blood in his arteries and veins burning. It was exhausting. Maintaining the spell for a few seconds was as draining as traveling on the Azure Dragon's back for a day. However, he didn't hurry. Rule 1 of persuasion skill set. Be confident. He maintained the facade of calmness and touched the petals. The flowers immediately withered when the black smoke seeped into them. They lost their colors. Just as they were about to die, Neo called the black smoke back, and the flowers regained their life. Neo turned around. Rule 2 of persuasion skill set. Smile. He smiled. Is this proof enough? The tyrant queen had a surprised expression on her face. Even she could not remain calm after seeing what he had done. It looked like a curse. You can cancel your curse after it has been cast, she spoke. It was an impossible feat. Curses, once activated, could only be transferred from one target to another. Neo did not correct her misconception of his abilities. His magic spell was tremor-ranked, and thus allowed him to have greater control over its impact. Just like the deal he had with the Tyrant Queen, he had no intention of telling her the truth. He had lied. Only the curse caster could save the queen. Neo cannot do it. And the caster's identity was never revealed, since the mermaid country was already destroyed by the time Amelia's backstory was shown. However, Neo had a plan, and he had already executed it. Now, he just had to wait for the result. The Tyrant Queen nodded after seeing his abilities. "We'll do as you asked." Suddenly, a screen appeared before Neo's eyes. Quest. Objective. Save the Tyrant Queen, Elizabeth. The mermaid country is isolated in the harsh seas of Audiobook. Its unfavorable location has led it to be exploited by other countries since its establishment. Elizabeth changed the situation through her overwhelming might. With her crowning, she made sure no country and demigod could look down on her homeland or exploit it. Her radical methods, while uplifting for the mermaid country, earned her the nickname Tyrant Queen. After years of peace, the people of mermaid country have forgotten the times when they were exploited. In their eyes, the Tyrant Queen is nothing but an uncontrolled slaughterer who is ruining their reputation and making enemies with powerful demigods. Believing that the Tyrant Queen's actions would soon bring retribution, the mermaid country has decided to revolt, to remove the Tyrant Queen before her enemies destroy their country in order to eliminate the Tyrant Queen. Reward: Immortal EXP plus 50 Water Affinity. Failure: Ire of Amelia de Beaufort. Do you wish to accept the quest? Y/N. There were many important details in the quest description. He scrolled above with a thought and reread it carefully. The story was as he remembered. The rewards were good. 50 EXP was equal to using the immortal skill 50 times. It would save him 50 days of training. I can get an element affinity as a reward. As far as Neo knew, nobody could gain an extra affinity. One could use spells of only their elemental affinities. The tremor rank spell of Mermaid Country was of water element. Neo had been hoping to copy the spell with his shadow element affinity, but this was a lot better. Elemental affinities needed to be awakened. Neo had only awakened death, and he was not sure how much time awakening shadow would take. I wonder if the water affinity I will get as a reward will be awakened or dormant. Well, even a dormant affinity is fine. Although shadow element can copy everything, having original affinity is still better since original affinities and spells are stronger than the copy. Demigods were born with fixed affinities, and they could awaken their dormant affinities after going through a life-death situation or having the help of a high-ranking demigod. Gaining a new affinity was unheard of. For this type of reward, the failure was only receiving Amelia's anger. It was clear what he needed to choose. Quest accepted. Since you've accepted the request, we can start now, the queen spoke. She smiled, then added, "We'll purge the palace." "Cha, Mom, are you going to kill everyone?" "Not everyone, sweetie. Only those who have a hand in the rebellion." Almost all the palace people supported the revolt unanimously. One of them might have been the caster of the curse. Elizabeth did not know the identity of the caster. She could not do the purge, as she might have killed the caster unknowingly. If that happened, she would have been unable to lift the curse. Her hands had been tied. However, with Neo's arrival, she did not need the caster to remove the curse. "As you wish, my queen," Claire said. "When can you start the remedy?" the queen asked Neo. "Tomorrow. I need to make some preparations today," he answered. The Tyrant Queen saw no problem with Neo's appeal. The curse cast on her rendered her, an exalted demigod, helpless. It happened because she had no defense against the curse, and the curse was applied over the years without her knowledge. But that didn't mean the curse was weak. No, to work on an exalted demigod, it had to be incredibly powerful. Taking a day to complete the preparations was already a lot less than what she had imagined. If he was not the kin of Hades, Elizabeth would have thought Neo was lying. Clara, call my personal guards, and until tomorrow, you will guard Neo. Elizabeth ordered. Amelia, you will stay with me while Clara is protecting him. She sent them after the short briefing. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed Amelia staring at him with a glare. The doors closed, and he heard a chuckle from Clara. She quickly wiped the smile before returning to her expressionless face. You don't need to be so uptight with me, Neo said. I'll show you the guest room, she said as she ignored his advice. The two entered a room in a secluded corner of the palace. Neo was appreciating the grandeur of the room when Clara locked the door behind him. He sensed her bloodlust, but before he could react, she swiftly approached him and covered his mouth with her hand. The dagger in her hand pierced his neck. His eyes widened. He choked on his blood as he stared down at the dagger. It was you. Never had he imagined the leader of the Queen's personal guard to join the rebellion. Clara grabbed his face and muttered, Let's see if you are really immortal. She activated the curse. Neo's skin twisted, and it began to rot at a visible pace. However, before he could even feel the pain, he was already dead. Clara let go of the dagger. His body fell with a dull thud. She waited. Would he really stand back? Was he actually immortal? How could a mere awakened demigod cheat death? No, none of those things mattered. If he was an immortal, she would imprison and hide him until the tyrant queen died. 10 seconds passed. 20 seconds passed. A minute went by. Neo did not revive. He was not an immortal. Clara released the sigh she had been holding unconsciously. She felt relieved. Come. She snapped her fingers. At the command, the shadows inside the room trembled. They shrunk and merged and transformed into a boy with green hair and yellow eyes. Why did you kill him, sis? He can heal the queen. I've verified his abilities. That means... His face hardened. The queen will soon do a purge. Not soon. She is about to start right now. Clara looked at the blood spilling out of Neo's neck. We need to spread the news of his death to stop the purge. The queen will realize I've joined a revolt. So, I'll go into hiding for a few days. Her brother, Paul, nodded. No matter the cause, Clara could not be captured. She was the leader of the revolt and the caster who used the curse on the tyrant queen. The revolt would fail if she were caught by the queen. Take his body. We will pin the blame of his death on the queen and say the queen killed him because he couldn't save her. Paul did not understand who Neo was to be able to cancel his sister's curse. However, he knew now was not the time to ask. I'll do as you've ordered. He shape-shifted to a splitting image of Clara and left the room. Neo opened his eyes beneath the dark sky. His plan worked. He met a person who was directly related to the rebellion. Since it was Clara, the original plan had to be changed. The job became easier. He could skip most of the steps and heal the queen while stopping the rebellion. It was all good. I feel like shit. Neo knew Clara had the ability to use curses, but he never expected her to betray Elizabeth. There was an important reason behind his oversight. In the novel, the resurrection ritual was attempted by the protagonist and Amelia to revive the tyrant queen. They used the divine water pond for the ritual. During the ritual, the queen refused to be resurrected. She told them to revive Clara, who died during the battle with the villain that destroyed the mermaid country. For Elizabeth, Clara was like her own daughter. She raised her and her brother, Paul, with love and care after she saved them from the pirates. A feeling of disgust rose in Neo's heart. Not only did Clara stab Elizabeth in the back, she took care of Amelia and replaced her mother. Was it Clara's way of apologizing for her mistakes? It was revolting. Oh, great child of Monarch, you returned earlier than what we had decided. The grating, yet somehow soothing, voice snapped him out of his thoughts. He looked ahead and saw the Grim Reaper. A situation occurred, and I was sent back here. Neo noticed something. The Grim Reaper was not surprised he came to the underworld without using the resurrection ritual. He knows about the immortal skill. This is only possible if there were other demigods who awakened this skill. As if reading his thoughts, the Grim Reaper spoke. It is fine if you came early. You have evolved, and your soul has been strengthened. The limit of corruption your soul can endure has increased. The Grim Reaper continued. And with your skill, you should be able to enter the underworld at your discretion. However, Do keep in mind you have to return eventually. The Grim Reaper was not looking at Neo, but above him, as if telling Neo to look above. Neo followed his gaze and noticed the screen. Time remaining, 11 hours, 58 minutes. Time passed slower in the underworld. 2 days in there were equal to 1 day in the world of living. The time on the screen was how long he could stay in the land of death. When the timer reaches 0, he would be forcefully revived. He could return before time was up if he wanted. Can you see the screen? Neo asked. We cannot. O great child of Monarch. After receiving the answer, Neo thought about what he should do. Returning right now was useless. His body would be with Clara. She would kill him again after he was revived. Immortal gave him the chance to resurrect once per day. He used the chance already. If he died again tonight, he was dead. Time remaining, 11 hours, 55 minutes, almost 12 hours. It was equal to 6 hours in the world of living. Neo died around 3 p.m. After spending 6 hours of real-world time in the underworld, he would be revived at 9 p.m. He would gain the revival chance at 12 a.m. 3 hours. I can't risk dying as soon as I revive, or I'll die permanently. Neo had to somehow stay alive for 3 hours after he returned. He tried to think of a way, but nothing came to his mind. In the end, it all boiled down to luck. If he was revived in a dangerous place or a safe place. What will you do now, O great child of Monarch? Will you return, or will you wait? I will train in the underworld. There was a high chance the rebels had his body with them. After the revival, he would need to fight his way out of their lair. He was weak right now. His progress in the underworld would decide if he could hold out on his own against the rebels or die without achieving anything. Standing up, he noticed the surroundings properly for the first time. The sea of blood-red colors stretched beyond the horizon, and something large continuously moved under the sea. His death affinity blared alarms as soon as he thought about stepping into the water. Don't go there, his senses were telling him. The beach, made of black sands, had a putrid odor. Bones of unknown animals jutted out at irregular intervals. At the far end of the beach, a white fog hid everything. The sky was covered in eternal darkness, and 3 gigantic eyes looked down from above like moons. Neo wondered if he could look in the darkness due to his bloodline. Although this was not a skill, something like this should be possible for him. Even the demigods of Poseidon bloodline could breathe underwater despite having no exact skill for it. And Zeus bloodline had an easier time learning flight or similar spells. Demigods had special constitution according to their bloodline. Shaking his thoughts away, Neo looked around carefully. From a logical point of view, the underworld was unpleasant. However, despite that, he felt comfortable there, feeling as if he had returned home. After completing the survey of the surroundings, Neo came to a conclusion. There is nothing to train with here. His only magic spell was Necrotic Touch. It needed a target to activate. Since he could not use it on the Grim Reaper for obvious reasons, he was left with no way to train. He clenched his fists. He needed to increase his strength urgently. It was impossible without training. O great child of Monarch, do you perhaps need our assistance? I need a target to train. Can you help with it? Neo decided to be shameless and made the request. It will be our pleasure. Clouds of smoke rushed out of the Grim Reaper's hand and formed a scythe. He hit the butt of the weapon on the ground. The beach shook. A simple action from the Grim Reaper brought an earthquake. The tremors quickly died down, but Neo noticed something was off. His face hardened. The bones protruding out of the ground were moving. They are ancient warriors of the underworld, the Golwax, created during the Titanomachy War. After the war, they outlived their purpose and were allowed to rest. Now, thousands of years later, all of them have disappeared. That doesn't mean they were destroyed. The creations of the monarch are not so feeble as to be defeated by time. They still sleep beneath the underworld, waiting for the day they are to be called again. Beware, their thirst for battle and blood has only increased after years of hunger. An arm crawled out of the beach. Neo could feel the aura of death multiplying by dozens of times. His own aura was a joke in front of it. He gulped. His throat was parched. Slowly followed by the arm, a head and torso appeared. It looks similar to a human skeleton except for the two horns, green flames burning in its eye sockets, and the sword in its hand. Its cracked, dirty bones made it look old and ferocious. Dangerous. His senses were screaming at him to run away. What is this? It's getting hard to breathe. A thick aura of death covered the skeleton. When he used his death affinity to sense it, all he saw was a human-shaped darkness with emerald eyes, carrying a sword wrapped in dried blood and flesh. Will my necrotic touch work against it? Neo asked. It will, O great child of Monarch. There was no time to ask why the spell that corrupted one's life force could work on a Golwak. The skeleton rushed at Neo with a blitz. Neo crossed his arms to protect himself. In retrospect, crossing your arms when something was running at you with the force of a bull was a stupid decision. Neo was made aware of it when something snapped. The attack landed and he flew back. His body bounced several times on the ground before coming to a stop. Special lesson, it packs a punch even without muscles. Neo's training with death skill increased his mental endurance. Thanks to it, he ignored the pain and looked for the Golwak's next attack. Instantly, his vision was covered with a foot coming down to stomp his face. There was no time to rest. He jerked his head to the side. The Golwak's attack missed, but it didn't let up as it raised its sword. Neo, on the ground, was unable to dodge. He used the necrotic touch and grabbed the Golwak's feet. The spell didn't activate. Neo's divine energy control was poor, and he tried to use the magic spell in a hurry. Thus, he failed to trigger the spell. Are you f***ing kidding me? The Golwak swung the blade. Neo repeatedly rolled, but took a few hits. Then as soon as he saw an opening, he grabbed its leg and pulled, making it fall over. He snatched the sword that had fallen out of the Golwak's hand and swiftly created a distance between them. Huff, huff, huff. Golwak was strong. A simple exchange was enough to tell him that. Even though it was all bones, it was fast, strong, and had exceptional combat senses. The skeleton stood up with a low growl. Its eyes were fixed on the sword Neo stole from it. But Neo wasn't looking back at the Golwak. You've got to be kidding me. There are multiple Golwaks crawling out of the beach. Why the hell does a skeleton bastard have friends? Can't they just sit and watch? Neo felt wronged. These bastards could see their friend was beating a weak demigod, so they decided to join in on the fun. He clenched his teeth, feeling his left arm throbbing from pain. It almost broke during the first exchange. The situation had swiftly taken a turn for the worse. He couldn't use his spell, and, oh great child of the Monarch, as I thought. Is it too difficult for the current Q? Neo looked towards the Grim Reaper. He held the sword with his right hand while breathing heavily. Should I ask for help from the Grim Reaper, or maybe tell him to lower the difficulty? Neo froze, unable to believe the words that appeared inside his head. What am I thinking? Did I try to run away? Again, am I going to be a loser in this world too? Didn't I say I don't want to be mediocre? He tightened his grip on the sword. I need to make the effort. There is nothing free in this world. Fight. If I can't win, I'll die fighting. I won't become a failure again. Neo renewed his resolve. No need. I could do it on my own, he answered the Grim Reaper. Amused, the Grim Reaper watched. Neo calmed his trembling arms and drowned out unnecessary thoughts. The Golwak rushed at him with a roar. Neo did not move. He just stared at it. Focus. I can't activate the necrotic touch instantaneously. Using divine energy is like moving arms or breathing. Everyone can do it. Right now, having awakened the divine energy recently, I'm like a patient who woke up from a coma. He continued to analyze himself. The Golwak covered half of the distance in the blink of an eye. However, Neo did not move and instead continued to analyze himself. Once a master had said, knowing oneself was half the battle won, and Neo knew it was true. My muscles capable of controlling divine energy are weak. They will improve as long as I train regularly. But that won't help me now. What can I do to win at this moment? The Golwak was almost in front of him. It stomped its foot and punched. In that moment where death was only an inch away, Neo found the answer. Give and take. Neo reacted. He grabbed its fist with his left hand. He heard a crunch from his arm, but he ignored it and swung the sword with his other hand. The blade beheaded the Golwak. Its body, lifeless, crashed. Neo's left arm flailed like a dangling branch. It hurt more than anything he experienced in his previous life. However, dying was more painful. He experienced it multiple times. Unlike what he heard, it did not reduce the pain he was feeling right now. It still hurt like a B***TCH. The previous pain did not make the current pain painless. It did, however, teach him to continue moving even if it was agonizing. Two Golwaks attacked him from different sides. The one on the left swung the axe, and the second Golwak stabbed the spear. Neo crouched at the last moment. Their attacks passed over his head. He stabbed the sword in the axe-wielding Golwak's foot and activated the necrotic touch. If he could not trigger the spell instantaneously, he just had to activate it beforehand. Black smoke came out his hand. However, they did nothing, as he had yet to grab anything. The Golwak, having received an attack, growled and tried to attack when suddenly Neo let go of the sword and used an uppercut. The necrotic touch hit its chin. Its bones began to crumble. Neo was about to continue when he felt a chill. He grabbed the sword and swung it behind him, only to feel a resistance as he blocked the spear luckily. While his attention went to the spear-wielding Golwak at his heels, the first Golwak slashed towards his shoulder. The blade penetrated deep into his skin. His muscles slowed the blade, and the Golwak increased the strength behind the axe. Neo grunted and grabbed Golwak's arm to stop it from cleaving him in half. He struggled to hold back his own against the two Golwaks at the same time. He was losing his strength. What he didn't realize was his left hand had somehow healed. Before the spear-wielding Golwak moved, Neo increased the intensity of necrotic touch. He applied 2 more stacks on the axe-wielding Golwak's hand. Instead of smoke, black ink dripped out of his palm. It spread on the Golwak's arm, and its elbow shattered like glass. The Golwak lost its balance after losing the arm. An opportunity. Neo kicked the spear-wielding Golwak and rushed at the first Golwak whose limb was destroyed. He grabbed its head and used the last remaining stack of necrotic touch on its head. With another necrotic touch applied to its jaw, the spell's strength increased, and the Golwak's face crumbled into dust. Suddenly, the second Golwak pierced his left leg from behind. Would have to survive first. Fueled by adrenaline, Neo grabbed the axe lodged in his shoulder and smashed it on top of the spear-wielding Golwak's head. The necrotic touch finished the first Golwak at the same time. Neo fell to his knees. The 3 Golwaks were dead, but in exchange, he was at death's door. His arm, shoulder, and leg were. Neo noticed his arm was no longer broken and the shoulder stopped bleeding. It was slowly but surely healing. After he pulled the spear out of his leg, the injury started to close itself. What is this? It's your godblood. You are the heir of the underworld, and it's helping you. What the Grim Reaper described was not a skill or spell, but an innate body constitution. The children of great ocean god Poseidon were stronger when they fought underwater. Those who carried the blood of high god Apollo grew powerful along with the sun's ascent and became weak when the sun disappeared. The heirs of the high god Dionysus gained a boost in the tasks they did while being drunk. Neo was similar. His stats and regenerative ability gained a massive amplification in the underworld. It is also why you, a being of death, are weak in the world of living. Neo's face stiffened. He recalled he felt incredibly weak in the world of living, despite having stats of an awakened demigod. Was the reason why I always felt tired, exhausted, and nauseous because of my bloodline? Doesn't it mean he was under a constant debuff? The Grim Reaper hit the beach with his scythe. Tremors, stronger than the last time, appeared. Trials of today will become your strength for tomorrow. As long as you keep advancing, you might learn to make the underworld descend into the world of living. When that happens, the Grim Reaper looked him in the eye. I'll be unstoppable. Neo understood what the Grim Reaper meant. The corner of his lips rose as he envisioned the future where he could fight without any restriction and have a constant buff. Glory awaits you, O great child of Monarch. So you must train hard and achieve the endless potential of your bloodline. The tremors died down, and 8 Golwaks came out. Neo's vision of the beautiful future shattered. Beautiful or not, Azure Spire Palace. Paul, who had taken Clara's appearance, met with the Queen's personal guards. The members gathered around Paul. Leader, is there something wrong? Why are you here, Captain? Captain, who was the kid who came to the audience hall today? Despite being far stronger than Paul, they did not detect his disguise. Paul released the false appearance. It's you, the members sighed. They noticed Paul was not making fun of them like he usually did after they were caught in his pranks. Sis, he changed his words. The leader has gone into hiding because she killed the brat we saw today. He had the ability to remove her curse, so it had to be done. Paul spoke with a grave expression. The Queen has ordered a purge. It's time for you all to choose a side. The Queen's personal guards looked at each other. They understood why a purge was happening. Their gazes grew determined after hearing the Tyrant Queen's cruel choice. We've made our decision long ago. That's right. We have nothing to be ashamed of. We aren't rebels. We are the patriots who are protecting our country from Tyrant. Paul raised their morale. Then, he added, the plan is to spread the rumors of the brat's death. It will corner the Queen and make her halt the purge. You call that a plan? An old man, the vice leader of the Queen's personal guards, cut off Paul mid-sentence. The Queen will go berserk if she gets cornered. Who knows how many will be slaughtered when that happens? That's true. Paul agreed. Do you have a better idea, vice leader? We'll do a purge, as the Queen ordered. Wah! But instead of the palace people, we will bring out the prisoners and execute them inside the palace. While the curse has weakened the Queen, her senses are nothing to scoff at. We will use it against her, he said. He continued, by killing the prisoners, we can create chaos and the palace will be filled with the stench of blood. It will fool the Queen. In the meantime, we will evacuate the palace people before she catches on, the vice leader explained. That's a very good plan. Why didn't I think of it before? Paul muttered. The Queen was at death's door. As long as they waited, she would grow weak and would no longer be a threat. Because you are still green behind the ears, the vice leader snorted. The members of the Queen's personal guard cheered for the vice leader. They got to work. Half of them went to the underground prison to bring out the prisoners, while the other half started the evacuation. The palace people were not given the reason behind the evacuation. They found it weird that they were using a hidden exit to leave the palace. However, no one raised a question since it was the order of the Queen's personal guards. The screams echoed in the palace for hours. While most of the Queen's personal guards were busy with the task, the leader and the vice leader met with the Tyrant Queen in the audience hall. The hall was deserted save for the Queen on the throne, the vice leader and the leader, who was Paul in Clara's disguise. How is the progress? The Tyrant Queen asked. The task is going smoothly thanks to the Queen's grace, Paul said. He noticed the purple markings appearing on the Tyrant Queen's body. The curse had entered its last stage. Still, looking at the Queen's demeanor, no one could tell she had 1 foot in the grave. The Queen nodded and looked at Clara. Since you were here, I take it Clara is still guarding Neo? Indeed, it is as you. Paul froze. A look of horror appeared on his face. The Queen knew he was Paul in Clara's disguise. How is that possible? While Paul was only an awakened demigod, his camouflage was perfect. No one, not even exalted demigods, could see through his disguise. Why aren't you answering? The Queen asked. Yes, Sis is G guarding him. I took her appearance to smoothen the process of the purge. Paul answered despite being shaken. The Queen tilted her head. Her eyes narrowed. You just lied. She treated Clara and Paul as her own children. While she had a hard time noticing his disguise when Paul guised himself as others, it was easy for her to see through his disguise when he became Clara. None of their habits were the same. Similarly, it was easy to notice when Paul lied after being caught red-handed. She had raised both Clara and Paul as her children. She could even remember how many times Paul, as a kid, sneaked into the kitchen for late-night snacks and lied in the morning when she asked him about it. After years, it became easy for her to catch his lies. A small smile appeared on her face, recalling the past, but she hid the smile quickly. Where is Clara and who is guarding Neo right now? She asked. Paul was frozen stiff with fear after having his lie revealed. He couldn't think of an answer. His heart began to beat loudly, making him believe it would break out of his ribs. If he lied again and got caught, it would be the end. Suddenly, the vice leader grabbed his collar and threw him towards the door. "Run. Tell others we were exposed. I'll hold her back and buy time for you." "Oh, okay." Paul stood up and tried to rush out of the door. "What are you two doing?" The doors suddenly shut close by themselves. "What do you mean you were exposed?" Hearing the chilling voice, Paul pulled out his sword and got ready to fight alongside the vice leader. The vice leader shouted, "Paul, I told you to run. You can't do anything against." He couldn't complete his words. His body was abruptly crushed into a paste of meat and blood. It was as if he had been hit by an invisible hammer. The tyrant queen did not even lift her finger. She just sat there menacingly. "Paul," the chilling voice commanded, "lower your sword." She was not stupid. She knew Clara had the ability to cast curses. But they were her children. She treated them no different from Amelia. So, why? Why were her children trying to kill her? An unfathomable amount of pressure descended on the Azure Spire Palace. Anyone inside was brought to their knees. They found themselves unable to move. They felt like they were being crushed by gallons of water. Cracks started to appear on the foundation of the palace, and the whole place shook. "Drop your sword, Paul." Paul gritted his teeth and glared at the queen. "I won't." His bones snapped. However, he did not heed her words. The pressure suddenly disappeared, and the queen stared at him. Worry and anxiety were hidden deep in her eyes. Her gaze was focused on his bleeding body, but her face remained impassive. The doors of the hall opened. Amelia, along with several of her personal guards, rushed inside. "Mom, are you okay? What was that?" "Don't go there, princess. The queen has gone berserk due to the curse." The guard stopped her. While Amelia remained unaware, they silently placed a sword behind Amelia's back, warning the queen to stop, or they would kill Amelia. The queen realized Amelia had not betrayed her, unlike Clara and Paul. A wave of relief washed over her heart. She looked at the guards. She could crush them with a snap before they could harm Amelia. But her gaze returned to Paul. They must have killed Neo or imprisoned him. There was a high chance Neo was dead. The tyrant queen never believed he was immortal. She only threatened him back then to see how he would react. With Neo dead and Clara in hiding, there was no way for the queen to save herself. After her death, Amelia would suffer, because she was a tyrant's daughter. "What are you doing?" Paul glared at the guard who had placed a hidden sword behind Amelia without her knowledge. While he was against the queen's tyranny, he knew Amelia was innocent. His words cleared the queen's thoughts. She knew what she had to do. "Get out." She waved her hand, and a powerful gust of wind threw all of them out of the audience hall. The doors closed behind them. Amelia stammered to her feet and banged her wrists on the door. "Mom, open the doors. Open it. Hick, please." Tears flowed out of her eyes. She turned to Paul and held his shoulder with trembling hands. "We need to find Neo. He can save Mom. We have to hurry." Paul looked away. Amelia did not know about Clara's ability to use curses. In fact, even among the rebels, only the queen's personal guards knew about it, and they came to know the fact after they decided to rebel. Curses were frowned upon. In the past, the tyrant queen told Clara to keep it a secret for her safety. Without knowing anything, Amelia was in the dark and requested help from the rebels. "We can't find Neo. He went missing a few hours ago. Sis is searching for him," Paul spoke. "We believe he ran away because he had no way to cure Mother." "What?" The despair in Amelia's eyes was slowly replaced by anger. With seething rage, she asked, "Did the rebels kidnap him?" "Yes, he might have been kidnapped. Sis said he kept wandering in the palace even though she told him not to, and then suddenly he disappeared." "I see." Amelia's expression darkened. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. Thinking that the queen might come after them at any moment, Paul hurried. "Amelia, you need to evacuate. The queen has gone berserk. I'm worried she might harm you too." "But, Amelia, stop hesitating. Face it that we can't save the queen now." Paul shouted. He spoke his next words in a low voice. "You are this kingdom's future. If you die, we would lose everything. Amelia knew what Paul meant. The Tremorank spell of the mermaid country could be inherited by 2 people at a time. With the queen on death's door, Amelia was the last possessor of the spell. If she died, the spell that protected the kingdom would disappear forever. I promise you, Amelia, I will do my best to save the K, mother. So leave it to me and go. Listening to his words, Amelia broke down into tears and nodded. Underworld. Neo's back rested against the sandy beach. His clothes were ripped and dried blood was stuck on his body. I feel like shit. The beach was filled with corpses of gullwax. Some were slashed in half, some had crumbled into dust, and some had been brutally bashed with fists. He absent-mindedly stared at the sky. Time remaining, 00 hour, 30 minutes. He had been fighting for only 12 hours? Wow, fuck. It felt like days had passed him. I'll kill myself if the growth I felt was also an illusion, saying so. He pulled up the status screen. Neo Hargraves. Rank, Grade 5 Awakened. Divine Energy Purity, Grade 1 Awakened. Stats, Strength, 19. Speed, 21. Dexterity, 17. Constitution, 14. Luck, 0. Affinity, Death, Shadow, Darkness, Void. Magic Spell, Necrotic Touch. Bloodline, Monarch of Death. Unique Skill, Death Immortal. Quest, Save the Queen, in progress. His strength and constitution increased by 3. It was a massive increase. Normally, a demigod needed to train for a few weeks to increase the stat by 3. Neo felt his growth speed was justified. His training intensity, unlike normal people, was beyond nightmare difficulty. He could not remember how many times he broke his bones and was nearly decapitated. These sick gullwax were perverts who liked to behead their enemies. Audience Hall. The Tyrant Queen stared at the air absent-mindedly. Where did things go wrong? She had trained until her hands bled. The position of queen demanded strength. Unlike the countries on the continent, Mermaid Country was surrounded by the Blood Sea on 3 sides, and the resources available to it were scarce. If one ignored Elizabeth, the military strength of Mermaid Country was low compared to other countries. Since they had weak heritage, unlike other countries that were supported by god clans, they had always been weak and poor. There is no wonder the countries wanted to exploit Mermaid Country, which had no one to defend them. Elizabeth had stood against those countries for years alone. She might have been called one of the strongest demigods, but even for her, fighting and stopping armies that were sent to threaten her country was a tall task. She had no one to depend upon. Still, she always did her best. When someone came to force and exploit her country, she retaliated in kind. So what had she gone wrong? Why was she being turned into the evil? Hadn't she always put the country before her own well-being? If Elizabeth was being honest, she did not care about the rebellion or about being called evil and a tyrant. It happened because of her own choices. She wouldn't deny them. But watching her own children leading the rebellion broke her heart. She covered her face with her palms. Tears slipped from in between her fingers. They were the tears of a mother. She could barely maintain the countenance of a tyrant. How could she care about dignity after she saw Paul, the child she raised with her own hands, point his sword at her? Time passed. Elizabeth wiped her tears and stood up. She left the audience hall. Her steps carried the grandeur of a queen. Her gaze was cold and confident like a tyrant, and the feeble mother was no longer to be seen. The palace was empty. There was no one to stop her. The tyrant queen returned to her room, to rest, forever. Azure Spire Palace. Paul carried Neo's corpse towards the queen's location. It was for an important task. Neo, an awakened demigod, could cure the queen's curse. Someone as capable as him must have a powerful backer. If Neo's backer found out he was killed by the rebels, they would be thrown from the frying pan into the fire. Paul planned to pin the death of Neo on the Tyrant Queen. They would say the queen went mad during her last moments and killed him because he couldn't save her. This way, the rebels would not be blamed for his death, and they might be able to befriend Neo's backer. Where did she go? Paul thought. The queen was not inside the audience hall. He searched the palace and did not find her anywhere. She is not in the office, not in the treasury, and not in the weapons barack. Where is she? Don't tell me. He rushed towards her room. Opening the door, he found her inside. A hollow laugh left his mouth. This fucking bitch. The queen sat on a chair. Her eyes were closed, and most of her body was covered in purple veins. She seemed to be asleep. Did she come here to die like this? How far will she go to maintain her dignity as the tyrant? It's because you do things like this that you've made enemies everywhere. She must have been in terrible pain. Nonetheless, her expression remained stone cold. It irritated Paul. If it's going to be like this, I would rather kill you with my own hands. He was thankful that Clara wasn't here, because she would have definitely stopped him. Even the reason Clara cast the curse was because Paul persuaded her. Paul threw Neo's corpse aside and pulled out his sword. He approached the queen. His arms shook and his breathing became ragged. He could not help but worry if the queen would wake up. While his complete focus was on the queen, Neo's corpse moved. The injury on his neck rapidly healed and he opened his eyes. As he woke up, he realized 40% of his divine energy was used to heal his body before his soul was revived. The flow of divine energy alarmed Paul, and then he heard a tired, yet emotionless voice. What a shitty skill. Paul snapped his head towards his back. Before he could see Neo used necrotic touch and grabbed his face. Black ink dripped from Neo's hand after he applied 3 stacks. You're alive. Paul, his face covered in black ink, jumped back dumbfounded. He could clearly remember the sensation of Neo's cold corpse. Hey, Chow, are you an illusion created by the queen? Neo did not respond. He stared at him with an unfeeling gaze. In truth, Neo was in a daze. Using 3 stacks of necrotic touch used another 30% of his divine energy, leaving him only 30% of the total energy reserves. He was anemic after burning so much god blood. Slightly out of it, he looked at the room. The queen, asleep, was resting on the chair. He stood near the wall, and it was dark outside. The only enemy inside the room was Paul. You, why aren't you responding? Paul pounced on Neo. Just as his sword was about to hit him, Neo activated the spell. The dark ink on Paul's face seeped into his skin and began to devour his lifespan. Our guy, what is this? It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Unlike the gull wax, Paul's body did not shatter, and he seemed to be under immense pain. Was it because he was a living soul? Neo watched him calmly. He did not like torturing people, but there was no need to show sympathy for those who killed him. Now, how do I call your sister? If I remember correctly, both of you have an artifact that tells you if the other's life is in danger. As soon as Neo finished his words, his death affinity reacted. An overwhelming amount of danger was coming at him. He didn't dodge, knowing the person who was the source of danger was coming towards him. Just as he expected, the wall next to him broke. A hand shot through it and grabbed his neck. What did you do to him? Clara questioned, enraged. She walked through the wall as if it was made of paper. She spoke in an icy tone. Answer me. Orbs of liquid metal materialized in the room. They transformed into weapons aimed at Neo. Neo, unaffected by intimidation, grabbed her arm and applied 2 stacks of necrotic touch. Clara sensed something was wrong and hurriedly threw him away. He crashed through the broken wall. This is... Clara noticed the black markings on her hand. Her face hardened as she recalled Neo's curse ability. She could feel her lifespan draining at a snail's pace. It was not dangerous for her, but it could kill Paul, an awakened demigod, and her brother within a few minutes. Neo did not stand up. He remained lying on the wall's rubble and stared at the roof in a daze. But to Clara, it looked as if he did not care about pain or her rage. It's a death mark, he explained. Once that appears on your body, you will die, no questions asked. Clara clenched her teeth. Her brother's blood-curdling scream filled her with despair and anger. Desperate to stop Neo, she stabbed a sword into his leg and twisted it. Release the curse on my brother, or... Her words were stuck in her throat. She thought Neo would scream or cry from the pain, just like her brother, but he stared at her with a calm, unmoving gaze. I told you, he spoke unhurriedly. I'm immortal. Death threats or torture wouldn't work on me. In panic, Clara forgot Neo was supposed to be dead. Her face went under countless changes when she realized he was actually immortal. While Clara was frozen, Neo stood up and approached the table with a limp. He sat with a thump before he prepared the teacups. "Where are the tea leaves?" He opened the teapot. "Clara, can you give me some tea leaves? They should be in the cabinet." His throat had become parched after exhausting most of his divine energy for resurrection. "What? Tea leaves? In the cabinet. Why are you so calm in the current situation?" Her face twisted into a grimace. Neo was confused. "What's wrong with getting snacks? I'm parched and hungry." Clara clenched her jaw. The queen was halfway through the door of death. Her brother was screaming in pain. Dozens of weapons were aimed at him, and his leg was bleeding. He wanted snacks in this situation? Crazy bastard. "Just give me the tea leaves. It's not like you can kill me." Clara knew that. Only the curse's caster could do something about the curse. If she wanted to save Paul, she had to listen to him. What she didn't know was the fact that all of it was a lie woven by Neo. Necrotic touch, a magic spell, would disappear after his death. It would not linger like a curse. Neo took the tea leaves Clara brought and started making tea. "Sit," he said. Both of them stayed silent after she heeded his words. Clara was furiously thinking of a way to save her brother, while Neo was appreciating the tea. "What do you want?" she asked as Neo calmly sipped the tea. "And stop. Please, my brother is in pain." Neo didn't agree to or refuse her request. He ignored her and focused on the tea. Clara barely held herself back from killing him. "What do I need to do?" she questioned again. Neo answered this time. "Save the queen." He added, "I will remove the death mark from you and your brother if you do that." If Clara removed the curse, the queen could single-handedly overturn the outcome of the rebellion. However, if she refused Neo, her brother, and she would die from the curse. Clara did not care if she died, but she didn't want Paul to die along with her. She had to make a choice, the rebellion or her brother. She bit her lips until they bled. Suddenly, Paul called out to her, "Sis, save me, please. It hurts. It hurts so much I want to die." His face was covered in tears, snot, and blood. He continued to claw his face and worsen the injuries. Clara's heart shook when she saw the miserable sight. "Are you even human? How can you do that and drink tea like nothing?" she shouted at Neo. "I wasn't the one who killed me." Neo placed the cup on the table. "Why should I be lenient to someone who killed me? He did nothing. I was the one who killed you, and you will die too if you don't accept the deal." Clara abruptly closed her mouth. He could see it. Neo was calm. Too calm. He was used to death. Killing others was no different from breathing for him. He didn't value life. Still, Clara could not make a decision. Was it correct to give up the rebellion for only her brother and herself? No, that was too selfish. "Before you refuse," Neo suddenly spoke. "Don't think this will end here." "What do you mean?" "Remember the bloodline I have. Monarch of Death." Neo nodded. "If you refuse me, I will make sure both of you go through something much worse for the eternity you will spend in the underworld." His words were like a bomb dropped on her head. She wanted to say it was impossible. The god of death, the end's jury, and the grim reapers were impartial. But Neo had proved he was an exception. He was the death's inheritor, and he came back to life. He did something impossible. It was very likely he was capable of achieving what he just said. Clara wanted to take time and think before answering. However, every second she wasted thinking was another second where her brother underwent unimaginable pain. "I will do it." She bit her lips. "I will do as you said. So please stop hurting my brother. Let him be for a few minutes. I want to hear him scream." Neo looked at the time. There were 2 hours left until the immortal recharged. If he let Paul go, what was he supposed to do? Dance? He had a reason to stall for time with his answer, even if he looked like a psychopath. As minutes went by, Clara thought about killing Neo countless times. However, she recalled his warning and stayed put. She was far stronger than Neo, and still she was helpless. Clara felt miserable. It was 1 a.m. when Neo finally moved. "We should save the queen. She has only a few hours left." He picked Elizabeth up and a Princess Carrie and made her lie on the bed. Her body was hot, and she was barely breathing. The injury on his leg sent jolts of pain across his body when he moved. However, He kept his face expressionless to maintain the facade of being the one in control. He placed a chair next to the bed and sat on it. Transfer her curse to me. Paul, remove the death mark on him first. Neo snapped his fingers and Paul stopped screaming. He frothed from his mouth and lost consciousness. The death mark has stopped devouring his life force violently, so he doesn't feel pain. But he is still losing it at a rapid pace. Neo looked at her with a chilling gaze. He warned her, "Now do what you were told, and don't think about playing any stupid games with me, if you don't want to win stupid prizes." Clara nodded. I'll start the transfer. You need to have physical contact with the queen first. He grabbed Elizabeth's palm. Clara closed her eyes and focused. Purple hues appeared around her. They seeped into the queen's body. A few minutes passed, but nothing happened. Clara opened her eyes with a snap. She was breathing heavily. It's not working. She isn't letting go of the curse. Neo's face darkened. Try again. Another 5 minutes passed after Clara's new attempt. There was no change. Now, it was clear to Neo. She wants to die. Clara stiffened when she heard him. I guess that makes sense after seeing someone she raised trying to kill her. While he had a calm expression, his anxiety was slowly starting to increase. If the queen died, he was royally fucked. There were more rebel members than just Clara and Paul. When they returned and found out Neo tried to save the queen, they wouldn't let him go. Clara was listening to him because her brother was cursed, but others were not the same. Saving the queen was the only way for him to survive. Damn it, why is she refusing to let go of the curse? Neo would simply die and revive since his immortal was recharged. He was not worried about it. He should have not been worried about it. The plan had gone without a hitch until the last stage. However, the queen's refusal was a major problem. Try again, he told Clara. They attempted the ritual several times. All of the attempts ended in failures. The time of the queen's death slowly approached. Neo's brows furrowed. What should he do? Was there a way to motivate the queen? Tell her you don't want her to die and try again, Neo ordered. Clara listened to his words. Nothing changed. Put more sincerity into your request. Again, her words made no difference. Put more sincerity into your request, he ordered. Clara tried. Her words made no difference. Neo snapped his fingers and re-triggered the violent devouring of Paul's death mark. He woke up with a startle and let out blood-curdling screams. What are you doing? Why are you harming Paul? I'm warning you. If the queen dies, don't think I'll let you two go. Dark lines appeared on Neo's face. He couldn't think of anything to save the queen. Not much time was left. Please save me, Mom. Paul spoke in a whimper. Neo frowned when he saw his pathetic actions. However, to his surprise, the tyrant queen's fingers twitched. She heard Paul. Neo looked at Clara. His eyes told her what she needed to do. She opened her mouth. Mom, please wake up. I don't want you to die. The tyrant queen reacted. Just when Neo thought he found a way out of the situation, he felt an incredible sense of sleepiness attacking him. What are you doing to me? He glared at Clara. Clara shouted. Hey, what's happening to you? Her words hinted that she wasn't behind the drowsiness. Before Neo could do something, he fell asleep. Bright sunlight pierced through Neo's eyelids. He woke up with a grunt. I feel like shit. Rubbing his hair, he scanned his surroundings. He was at a harbor where a proud, wide, broken ship was docked. Countless citizens were gathered in the area. Listening to them, Neo found out that they were celebrating someone's, their queen's, safe return. Where am I? Neo remembered falling unconscious while trying to save the queen. He pushed through the crowds to find out what was happening. His eyes widened. He saw a young Elizabeth with dark, sunken cheeks coming out of the ship. She looked famished. In her hands, a little girl, 5 or 6 months old, slept. Elizabeth and Amelia, he thought. A guard approached Elizabeth. What about the king and the prince, my queen? The guard asked. Elizabeth shook her head. She tried to calm the citizens and the guards, but their sorrow was palpable. No one seemed in their right mind. Biting her lips, she hid her tears and donned an expressionless mask. Stop crying. We don't have much time left. Elizabeth spoke with a firm voice. The Falcon Pirates will arrive on our island in a few weeks. We have to prepare, and there are survivors on the ship. Take care of them. And my queen, what about reinforcements? Can't we ask other countries for help? The guard asked with a fearful expression. I've tried, but they refused. Our country no longer has anything of value to give them. They have no need to help us. The queen moved towards the palace. The people were shocked and helpless. They seemed sure of their eventual demise at the hands of the pirates. However, seeing the queen, who stood firm, they regained a bit of hope. The soldiers and the citizens got to work. After a bit of time, Neo noticed familiar people among the survivors of the ship. Paul and Clara. Both of them were kids. Paul, only a few months or perhaps of the same age as Amelia, and Clara, a year or two older. Neo was scouting the surroundings when he heard someone talk to him. The queen had been living with her husband until now. Her ship was attacked on her way here. Turning around, he noticed a 10-year-old Amelia. No, she looked similar to Amelia, but something was different. He couldn't put a finger on what was different. Still, he could tell she was not Amelia. Who are you? He asked. Guess who I am? She gave a cheeky smile. Elizabeth's secret child? She gave him a deadpan stare. No one can talk or see you except me. Shouldn't you have thought I was this dreamscape's owner? Oh, Neo's eyes slightly widened. He looked at her carefully. I didn't know you thought of yourself as a kid despite being so old. You weren't going to call me old, right? The pressure of the tyrant queen surrounded her. Neo took a step back and shook his head unconsciously. I wasn't. Good, she smiled. Follow me. They walked on the beach alone. Neo knew he had to persuade her to transfer the curse to him. But judging from the situation, it seemed Elizabeth pulled him here for a reason. She must have had something to say to him. He decided to hear her. The pirates won't be able to defeat my country, she told him. I know. Since the mermaid country is still standing, you must have won against the pirates. That's not it. She shook her head. The pirates never attacked. After all, she turned on her heels and faced him. They were annihilated when they attacked the ship when I was on the way here. Why didn't you tell your people about it? All of them are worrying the pirates will attack again after their ambush on the ship failed. Elizabeth let out a smirk. The smile looked natural on her, but he couldn't imagine the tyrant smiling the same way. I couldn't tell them how the pirates were defeated. Can you guess how it happened? Neo thought about it. The answer was clear. She did it with the help of the Tremorank spell of the mermaid country. Unlike what everyone thought, the spell was not the country's heritage. It was given to Elizabeth by Amelia's father, the great ocean god, Poseidon, when the pirates attacked. This was revealed in the novel Son of Zeus that Neo had read. No one knew the true identity of Elizabeth's husband other than her. You can't guess it? Neo stayed silent. The pirates were defeated by my twin sister. It was the first time he heard about Elizabeth having a sister, much less a twin. She laughed when she saw his expression. So even you can make a face like that. Twin sister, he asked. Yes, my twin sister. She was Amelia's birth mother and the wife of the great ocean god, Poseidon. What?